Hello and welcome to the December episode of Highlights from the Hill. Thank you for coming back, Dr. McLeod.
It's always a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
And today on our show we have basically three cool segments. We're going to be talking about Elmwood School. We're going to be taking a look at the fall season of Hiller Athletics. And we're also going to be taking a look at a couple of the international nights that have been going on in their school system.
That's right, Jim. And the first segment today is all with a focus on all the Hiller sports. I know that I was at the girls' final game on Saturday afternoon. So exciting.
Yeah.
Division champions. And the girls played with such enthusiasm. It was a pleasure to watch them. But I know that there's been a lot of other exciting things going on, and I believe that this segment is really going to highlight all of the wonderful things that have been going on with Hillers this past fall.
The Hopkinton Hillers fall sports teams completed another successful season. The Hillers field hockey team took home the TVL title and claimed the 12th seed in the South Division I playoffs. They won in the first two rounds, a 3-0 victory over Norwood in the first round, followed by a stunning 2-1 upset in double overtime over 5th-seeded Silver Lake. The Hillers put up a great fight in the next round against 4th-seeded Sandwich, but fell 1-0 in overtime. They ended their terrific season at 13 wins, 4 losses, and 4 ties. Despite losing a lot of athletes from last year's team, the Hillers boys cross country team went 4-2 during the regular season and competed well in the TVL championship meet. Hillers girls cross country finished the regular season 6-0 and finished in the top third of the state tournament. Hillers football had a solid run this season. They entered the annual Thanksgiving game with a 4-6 record and got a big blowout win against Oliver Ames as well as Framingham. The Hillers golf team once again made a run at the TVL title, finishing the regular season 14-4. Despite losing most of the key players from last year's TVL champion squad, they still finished towards the top of the division. Hillers boys soccer had a great run but fell just short of the playoffs. They finished the season with 7 wins, 10 losses, and a tie. Hillers girls soccer developed many young players in their 3-win, 9-loss, and 6-tie season. The team played a close contest in just about every game. Last, but certainly not least, the Hillers volleyball team had an unforgettable run this fall. The team finished 22-2 overall and captured their second state title in the past 3 seasons. The Hillers took down Medway, last year's Central Sectional winner Westboro, Canton to capture the Central Sectional Championship, an undefeated Amherst team in the state semifinals, and the Hillers dethroned last year's state champion Notre Dame Academy for this year's title.
All right, so that was very exciting. In fact, my daughter works at Bill's Pizza, and Saturday night was very exciting when all the girls got back into town.
Oh, wow, that's neat.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah. My news director, Tom Nappy, he did a great job on that. He really is a sports director at heart. Yeah, he's great.
So the next segment is really focusing on 2 very special events that have taken place recently in town. They are both international nights. One was at the high school, and the other was at the Hopkins School. I happened to be able to attend the Hopkins School event, where it was actually really emotional. There were over 500 people there, just celebrating traditions and their own cultures. And I know that when Vanessa is on the show next month, we can talk a little bit more about all of the different countries that were represented. But it really made me come to realize how rich our town is becoming with diversity and the celebrating of different people's customs. And it was a very heartwarming evening. So let's take a look.
Well, tonight here at Hopkins, we are having our second Hopkins International Night. So our first one happened 2 years ago under the direction of Mr. Kernan, the former principal, and Bindu Pal, who is a parent in the community. And they had this fabulous idea to celebrate the diversity within Hopkins School. And we brought it back this year. We have 30 countries represented tonight, over 100 students participating. So more than 20% of our students are here sharing their culture and their family history. We have amazing food. I highly recommend the Filipino lumpia, the Chinese dumplings. There's amazing Indian, Italian food. It's amazing. There are displays, and pretty soon entertainment will be starting, and there's some amazing shows coming up very soon.
Welcome to the Hopkins High School International Night. We're here with 20 of our international students, ranging from countries all around the world: Italy, Germany, Thailand, China, Japan, and others. And we're collecting food and information and stories and presentations and performances. And we're going to just kind of have like a opportunity for our community to grow in terms of knowledge of where other people are from around the world.
Well, most Chinese students, Chinese school has one spirit in China. Very, very true. Study, study, study.
But also, today, I bring you guys some souvenir from China. Including this cutie panda. Cutie panda.
And at the high school, at their international night, our exchange students got to really have an opportunity to talk about traditions in their countries. There were 7 countries represented, 22 students there, and I know that we captured, you know, some of this as well.
Yes.
So 2 really wonderful events that took place recently.
Yes, and the feedback I got was the food was awesome.
Oh, I did hear that. Yes,
Right.
from someone internally, I think.
Yes, yes, exactly. All right, so now we're going to transition to the focus of our show today, which is going to be Elmwood School. And we're going to bring Ann Carver on and have a chat about Elmwood School. And before we do that, we're going to show you a quick segment, which we're calling A Day at Elmwood School.
sort of folded. Good job. Clear that away. Make the base word swing. This one has a weird sound in it. This word swing. All right, make the word swinging. I hear some friends making some comments about how that one's kind of funny.
So we have our special guest, Ann Carver, here this afternoon. And thank you so much for making time to come into the studio and chat with us about Elmwood School. So we had the pleasure of speaking with Lauren DeBow on the last show. And really what I'm curious about is I feel like you're kind of like a middle child. You have the students who are between the Center School and getting ready for the Hopkins School. And I'm sure what people would be really interested in understanding is what's really unique about really the educational program for second and third grade students.
Well, so students who come to Elmwood School are, of course, still babies in my mind, but they're gaining independence. So they've been given a strong foundation at Center School, and they come to Elmwood School ready to be bigger kids. We don't want them to grow up too fast, and nor do their parents. But they do want some independence, so they travel throughout the building with less adult supervision. And they start, in third grade in particular, they start switching classes, so the third grade teachers have a switch partner, and one classroom will teach social studies, the other classroom teaches science, and the kiddos move from room to room, so they start to feel a little bit like they start to experience some of the things that they'll have more time to do when they get to the Hopkins and the middle school and then of course high school. So that's kind of exciting for kids, but we also have to recognize that they are still quite young and they need to have a lot of opportunities to practice behaviors. We spend this year, a particular focus for us has been social emotional learning, and we spend lots of time helping children at this age understand they can be problem solvers. I think that when children are quite young, it's often our initial response to help kids solve problems, and so we have to talk with kids and teachers and sometimes even parents to say, how can the child solve that problem themselves and be a problem solver? So there's lots of time spent with that.
I've noticed in one of the segments when you talk about problem solving, one of the things that stood out right away was, you know, you getting down at the child's level, and I think that that's something that people do not necessarily recognize or understand, that is something you see in a building with children your size, is that the educators are constantly getting down to the child's eye level. I see you actually crouching beside a child in one of the pieces
you
there.
won't see teachers standing in front of a room teaching to a whole group of kids who are sitting in chairs. I think a couple of the pictures show spelling tests. And when I first took a look at the video footage, I said, oh, there's snack time. And then I realized, no, that wasn't snack time. That was a spelling test. And if you were actually in the classroom at that time, you'd see some children are laying on the floor with their feet up in the air. They're on a clipboard taking the test on the floor. Other students might be standing at a stand-up desk. Other children may be at a seat in their own little space because that's what they require. Other kids might be off in a beanbag taking a test. So of course the purpose of a spelling test is to determine if kids know how to spell a word. But
not whether they know how to do it sitting in their desk.
That's right. Gone are the days where all of the kids are sitting in rows waiting for the teacher. Sometimes kids are giving other kids the words. Other times it's a teacher who's reciting the words. but it really looks different in every classroom that you go to, which is exciting.
And what about that morning meeting? Can you tell us a little bit more? I know that you talked about social
Sure.
emotional needs of students, but we did see a segment about a morning meeting taking place. Can you tell us about
the
that?
classroom was standing in a circle, and as we came in, there was a lot of excitement because a camera was coming into the classroom, but the teacher kind of made a little nod. I don't think she said anything at all, and the kiddos came right back to their meeting, and it was an activity called Just Like Me. So teacher, at one point, I think the teacher made a statement, I wish I had a dog. And then you see the kids all stepping into the center of the circle and saying, just like me.
Oh.
And something other children were saying, I have a new baby in my house, or I just moved to Hopkinton. And so the message for the children is that there are lots that we may look different, we may feel different, we may even behave differently at different times throughout the day, but that all in all, we're more similar than not. And that's something that's celebrated throughout the school. And in that exercise, it gives kids a chance to experience how many things that they share with their peers. And it's also a movement break. The kids were on their feet, they were stepping in and out, they were getting ready to do some probably more sit-down activities, but they start the day with active thinking and socializing, which is nice.
What are some other things that come to mind for people who are watching this that are changes in the way in which kids learn? You talked about, standing desks and being on the beanbag. What are some other things that come to mind that are important early childhood learning tools that we as educators are using now in our classrooms?
Well, I know that in terms of our reading instruction, there's a lot of differentiation. So there might be children, I don't know that we captured this on the video, but there are classrooms that I'll go in and see I think we did see some daily 5 time where some children are working in a group with a teacher, other children are reading with partners, other children are reading by themselves, depending on the lesson of the day. And in some classrooms, there's a lot of choice. Do you want to read to yourself today? Do you want to read to a peer today? Do you want to read in a group with a teacher today? And of course, if children don't choose, if someone were to always choose, I want to read to myself, then the teacher would gently encourage that child to make a different choice on a different day, because we want kids to get to all aspects of reading. Then there's writing time and word work where they can actually manipulate letters. I think you saw that in one of the pieces with Foundations, which is new this year, and that's something that we're using in kindergarten, first grade, and in second grade. And the piece that you see is what we call a tile board, and the teacher is saying some words, and the children are actually manipulating letters to form words, and they're learning an awareness of letters, names, and sounds, and how those make words, and eventually turn into a story.
So something I would like people to know about you, and that I just learned recently, is that our principals are also instructional leaders, Jim. I mean, they are very talented. And when Anne is talking about foundations, she's actually a foundations expert. And most recently, I learned you actually went to the center school and you were modeling lessons there.
I did.
For the first grade, kindergarten?
Yes. Yep, first grade.
First grade. So
We
not
started
only,
with first.
providing professional development for her own building, but also sharing with a colleague. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, one of the concerns that the teachers at center school had was with pacing of a lesson. And I'll say as an educator that a foundations program consists of lots of pieces. They call them activities. There's word work, there's trick words, which are words that are irregularly spelled words, and children have to just memorize the word they, says they. And those are words so frequently used that if a child should stumble, that will get in the way of comprehension and fluency. So the activities are sequenced, and it's done in such a way so that kids really have a comprehensive understanding of reading. But for a teacher who's new to the program, it can be a little bit daunting to put all those pieces together. We don't want a teacher teaching foundations for 60 minutes a day.
Right.
We want them to be able to fit that instruction into a prescribed amount of time. So teachers, Lauren DeBow had said to me that her teachers were struggling a bit with that, and I completely understood. So I threw out the offer, would it be helpful if I taught a lesson where it's very hard to make decisions about instruction while you're actually teaching.
Absolutely.
And so I said, perhaps I could go over, teach a lesson, they could sit back, they don't have to worry about classroom management or Am I using the pieces correctly? Could I just see it in action and see if it can be done? So Lauren set up the group. There were, I think, about 4 or 5 teachers. I came in, brought my materials, used some of their materials as well. The kiddos were amazing. I think they thought I was Miss Carver, who's a co-teacher, because several kids asked me, "Are you my sister's teacher? Are you my brother's teacher?"
Nice.
But they were amazingly well behaved, and the teachers seemed appreciative.
And I bet you loved it. So what you don't know probably, and people watching, is that Anne was a first grade teacher for how many years?
26.
Many.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
And so the fact that you're taking that expertise in your role as principal and sharing it with the teachers,
was a lot of fun.
That's really wonderful.
Thank you.
One of the things I was wondering about, whenever you teachers and administrators talk about teaching, it's so interesting because it's so complex. And I wonder at that age, how much of the skills that the kids need that they're practicing, do they have to reach a certain age, or is it something that you're teaching? For example, it just seemed to me when my kids, before they were 16 and a half, it was scary when I was practicing driving with them, but something happened when they were like 16 and a half to 17 that all of a sudden they really got it. I'm wondering how much of that is at work with your kids in the school, and how much is it you just have it's just like they're ready, they're soaking it up, and you're teaching them things?
Well,
Great question.
Most of what happens in an elementary school is developmentally good, and so unfortunately kids come to us in all levels of readiness, and so it's very important for teachers to take kids where they are. Although we have a set standard idea of most children when they come into 2nd grade have made some sense of they understand certainly how to hold a book, to turn pages from left to right, that words tell the story, not the pictures. There are stages of learning that teachers at this level understand. It's a sequential process, but teachers sometimes have to step back a bit and start a bit earlier for kids who need that. And other times there are kids that are well beyond what is expected of a child at a particular grade level, and they need to extend that learning for those kids. But for the most part, it's fairly predictable, although no 2 days is ever the same, and that's what makes this fun.
Do a lot of kids get lost now that they're going between classes?
That's something that in the summer
and
in the spring of each year, the 2nd graders come over to Elmwood and visit. And they have a tour, and they travel throughout the building with their teachers. And we can see, it's not hard to see that there's apprehension on the part of the kids. This looks so big, how will I find my way? But we have lots of structures in place to prevent that from happening. And once they arrive, I think it feels like a school. There's so much in place for them that I think that they feel very quickly right at home. But making that transition is hard. Something that we've talked about doing this year is filming lots of things that we're doing at Elmwood School, so that in the spring we can share that with Center School and sort of say, so that children will see there's a cafeteria, just like at Center School. There's a library, there's a computer lab, there's parts of a nurse, a principal. There are pieces of Elmwood School that will be very, very familiar to them. We also try to showcase things that are different. Kiddos I don't think the children at Center School use WITFIT balls, but at Elmwood School we do. Not in every classroom, but in some, which are very large. They look like fitness balls with little legs, and for kids who need a little feedback when they're sitting. And sometimes we'll have families say, my children want the classroom with the big balls. And we say, well, those are, kids actually research the appropriateness of sitting in a ball that gives a child some movement. They write letters to me. They ask, they share with me the things they've learned about the importance of movement while you're at work. And then I actually approve their use of WITFIT balls.
Oh, nice.
So it's
That's tremendous.
Important process.
So another important thing that you wanted to talk about on this segment was We Deliver.
Yes, a very big focus of our, right at this moment, we're right in the thick of the first stages of We Deliver. So We Deliver is a postal delivery program. I believe this is year 17. It could even be 18. So I think it's a program that has a tradition in Hopkinton that goes beyond some programs, that there's a steep history with it. Children, we choose postmasters, and children actually deliver the mail. People write letters to their children, to their friends. Kiddos write to me, to their teachers, and we deliver the mail in the afternoons
That's
after
great.
school. So
That's
it's quite
really,
fun.
really awesome.
It is
And thanks for being here. I'm really sorry we've got to wrap up the show. It's been so fascinating.
I think you had some names, though, that you wanted to recognize.
I'd be happy to announce that Ashley McCann, Emma Lucier, Padmashri Maladi, and Connor Mellon are our postmasters for this year.
That's great.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Well, Anne, thank you so much for finding time in your busy day for being here. It was so informative, I'm
Thank
sure,
you
for
having
people
me.
watching.
It was a great treat.
All right, thank you very much for being on our show. It's been great. And thank you for watching this episode of Highlights from the Hill. We invite you to tune in next month, where one of the topics we'll be discussing is Hopkins School with special guest Vanessa Bolello.
Hi, my name is Margie Wiggin, and I want to invite you to join me for my new show, Character Matters, on HCAM. We're going to talk about why do people choose the behavior that they choose? Why do they choose to be good? We're going to hear from people in history, we're going to hear from local heroes who make great choices, and we're going to hear from some puppets who talk about things they've seen, and they're going to say, "What? Did you see that?" "Yes, I did." Please join us.
Do you have what it takes?
Will you make a difference?
Always an adventure.
Police and fire working together.
Utilizing the latest technology.
Do you have what it takes?
Have you ever considered texting and driving? If so, you should know the consequences. If caught texting and driving for the first time, you could get an $100 fine plus your license taken away for 60 days. The consequences only get worse the more you get caught. Even if you don't get caught, there could be serious effects. You could get into a car accident and hurt yourself or someone else. Texting and driving is a very dangerous combination, so stop before this happens to you.